A former Austin mayoral candidate is challenging the city over how it's presenting a tax rate election to voters in November. Last week, Austin City Council approved a budget and a tax rate high enough that it triggers an election. So if passed, the average homeowner's property taxes would go up roughly $300 a year. On the ballot, Prop Q will say this is a tax increase and describe how the money would go toward housing affordability, homelessness, parks and recreation, public health, public safety, and other general fund operations. But Jeffrey Bowen filed a lawsuit today which claims that ballot language doesn't make it clear that the hike to your property taxes would be recurring, and claims the description of what you'll get is not clear enough. Current Mayor Kirk Watson, who defeated Bowen in November of last year, told us today, quote, "The city of Austin is confident the ballot language is appropriate and meets all legal requirements. We also have confidence in the court system and will respond in that venue." Central Texas congressmen filed new legislation that would beef up staffing at the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Today, Congressman Greg Casar introduced the FEMA Critical Staffing Act. So this would require the agency to reinstate employees fired under DOJ cuts, and then programs like disaster preparedness grants and the flood mitigation assistance program.
This is more than staffing plans. This is about more than acronyms and agencies. This is a basic test of our values. Do we care more about tax cuts for billionaires, or do we care about keeping our community safe from natural disasters?
Well, the president previously stated his administration planned to phase out FEMA after this year's hurricane season. At the time, the White House emphasized that states should have a larger role in disaster response and recovery instead of the federal government.
And students at Maynard ISD are kicking off their second week of class. There are some changes that we're seeing over there on the campuses, and this follows a really awful incident. There was a deadly stabbing on campus last year.
It's hard to believe that that was last year, but the district says it is using new technology to help prevent a future tragedy. And KXAN's Barrett Tryon joining us live in studio with an in-depth look at what the district is doing. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, safety at the forefront of the school this year. We recently caught up with the superintendent and how the district is addressing some of those challenges when it comes to keeping staff and students safe. How do you assure parents that safety is a priority, that those things are active conversations that are happening?
Had a safety audit, a couple of them actually, and there's some 43 recommendations for safety improvements that we began last year. Some of them take a little bit longer and take a little bit more money, but we have continued all summer long continuing to implement those safety improvements. I think probably the most visible one is the installation of a weapons detection system, which is going to be fairly inobtrusive. It's one that's being used, I believe, by the NBA as well, but it is one where kids can pass through and staff can be watching to make sure that nothing gets into the schools that's not wanted. Of course, nothing's foolproof. The best thing we can do is continue to ask our kids to be the great kids they are, and if they see something, say something.
Anything new this year happening? Anything you guys are really excited about?
You know, we're really just excited about expanding and building upon what we already have. We have a fantastic fine arts program. This is the 7th straight year we're a Texas Art Educator Association District of Distinction in Fine Arts. I sent a lot of kids to state in UIL in fine arts. We've had 5 former players drafted into professional leagues in the last 3 years alone. So watching our athletics grow, and then of course our academics. So we produced 68 associate's degrees on this last crop of graduates, and we hope to see that continue to expand and have that opportunity for more students. So yeah, real excited to see what our kids can do and what kind of legacy they can grow.
It's also the first full year of school since the district has been taken off intervention by TEA. The superintendent also told us its engineering program continues to expand as well, teaming up with places like Tesla and Samsung to get those kids that real-world experience.
But first, Democratic Texas lawmakers are planning on a sleepover tonight to protest. Thanks for joining us. I'm Daniel Marina.
And I'm Jennifer Sanders. Let's take a live look now at the state capitol. Some Democrats are planning to sleep in the House chamber tonight because right now they can only leave if a DPS trooper follows them to make sure they are back in the House chamber tomorrow to vote on a new congressional map. Capitol correspondent Dylan McKim brings us the latest from the Capitol.
Texas Democrats are planning to spend the night on the House floor, ripping up this permission slip that allowed them to go home. It says they're only allowed to leave if a DPS officer follows them to make sure they report back to the Capitol when the House gavels in again on Wednesday. Only one Democratic member, Nicole Collier, refused to sign the permission slip. She's been in the House chamber since Monday, but now she's getting some company. Throughout the halls of the Capitol, you could hear demonstrators chanting to release Collier, arguing the law enforcement escort is illegal.
She doesn't have the ability to freely walk off the floor without somebody following her and essentially supervising her. I think certainly does call into question if whether they in fact have the ability to do that or not.
State Rep Cassandra Hernandez has been bringing Collier food and water, even as she's being followed by her own escort.
It's a waste of state resources.
While Democrats argue it's a waste of resources, the Republican colleagues argue it's necessary.
They've already proven that they'll leave. They won't come back when they're told. They have a constitutional obligation to be here during the special session to get the work done of the people of Texas.
A Supreme Court of Texas ruling in 2021 answered the question of whether the Texas House has the authority to compel attendance of absent members. The conclusion was it does. The law enforcement escorts will remain in place until the House passes a new congressional map. That vote is scheduled to happen on Wednesday, and it's primed to be another political fight.
And it's not just about Texas, it's about the nation.
We are going to accomplish everything that the governor put on the call.
In Austin, I'm Dylan McKim.
And the Texas Senate is expected to vote on the controversial map later in the week, possibly on Friday. Now, going in depth, in 2021, the Texas Supreme Court ruled that House rules at the Capitol are enforceable based on the Texas Constitution. At the time, lawmakers had fled the state and subsequently sued the governor and Speaker of the House for issuing warrants for their arrest. While the Travis County Court agreed with the quorum breakers, the Supreme Court of Texas stepped in to overturn the ruling, saying the House has the power to, quote, compel the attendance of absent members, adding, quote, we are aware of no method of compelling an unwilling person to be physically in attendance at a particular place without the power of physical restraint.
Downtown Austin Alliance is partnering with the City of Austin to create a task force which has launched earlier this month, bringing together state, local government agencies, including the city, the county, Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the Sheriff's Office, District and County Attorney, Integral Care, health providers, and others, to tackle the problem of trying to prevent people from being released, again, primarily from institutional settings, into a condition of homelessness, ensuring they're connected with services rather than being released onto the streets.
Maybe fill in the blank for people out there about what they should expect this task force to do moving forward from this point since it's been created.
Thank you. The idea or main purpose really is to identify what policies and procedures different entities have in place or don't have in place. For example, identifying people that come into their care, whether that's in a hospital setting or in another institutional type of setting, people who are homeless coming in the door or likely to be homeless when they're released, to ensure that planning begins and there are procedures in place that help prevent them from just being released out on the street. And some of these folks aren't even from the Austin area, and they're released into homelessness without family, without connections to resources, or even knowing where these things are to serve them.
I do want to point out something that came in the announcement of this task force between, again, the city and the Downtown Austin Alliance. It was stated, according to quarterly Downtown Austin Alliance counts, that efforts from the city have reduced tents and other structures in the downtown area, but the number of unhoused people still remains between 400 and 500 people. Will this task force focus on solutions to get these people housed, or should there be more emphasis on that approach instead of just moving people around?
Thank you. It's really twofold. We want to try and prevent people from being released into homelessness, but to ensure that those who are homeless are connected to care and services at every possible intersection, whether that's healthcare, whether that's criminal justice, or whether they're engaged with our service entities before they leave a shelter or a service provider's care. What's the next step for them to ensure they're not just being released on the street, but hopefully to the next step in the pathway of resolving their homelessness?
Well, Bill Bryce, we appreciate you coming in and filling us in a little bit about this project. Of course, we'll have to touch base with you to see how things progress from here, but thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, we will send it all to break, and we'll be right back